Hey guys, today we're going to be reviewing Neca's 7-inch T-800 Guardian figure. That would be Pops, from the Terminator Genysis line. He's the first of 3 that we're going to review here. Obviously, there's only 3 in the line. There will be no more. I have already inquired on Twitter. I have already inquired through Neca to see. They say no. Now, if there's a continuation with the Terminator Genysis film series, then maybe. But as of right now, the film series has been cut off. We may have seen our last of Arnold, so grab these 3 while you can, because there's not going to be any more. There was originally supposed to be an endoskeleton that was originally announced with it, the endoskeleton and old Arnold. What we ended up getting is old Arnold, obviously the T-1000 police cop, and then Pops, which is older Arnold. I guess they're both Pops, but whatever. These 3 were definitely a better selection than coming out with another endoskeleton. Mainly because we already have the endoskeleton from the previous films, mainly T2. NECA's already done it, so they just use the same tooling. What can you really do to revamp it? Nothing. So the 3 we got were awesome. This one, hands down my favorite. You can see the head sculpt here. He's awesome. I mean, the whole NECA Terminator line is fantastic, but they've really captured the essence of old Arnold. And you'll see at the end of the review here, I'm going to compare some of the young Arnolds and old Arnolds together so you can kind of see the real difference between the 2. But first, why don't we take a look at packaging? Now, I'm sure anybody that has any of the new Terminator figures, you already understand. Clamshell's out, collector box is in. And when I say collector box, I'm obviously talking about the windowed box. As you can see here, starts on the front, but it wraps clear up around the top of it. It has the little hanger on the back of it there. And then obviously it has the writing down at the bottom of it. I'm not a huge fan of the new boxes, but at the same time, I'm also not against them. I don't think there's anything really crazy about it. I've said before in my other reviews, I do like the traditional clamshell better for displaying them inside the box. However, I take mine out of the box and I play with them anyway. So obviously, like, I don't care about taking them out of the box. And if you're an out-of-the-box collector, these new ones are better. Mainly because when you go to a move or you're, changing places, or maybe you just want to pack the figure up to make room for some other figures because you have way too many, which I don't think is a real thing, but some people might, you can put them easily back in the box and do this display right here. In which case, you still have the figure, you have the spare head to the side, and it looks awesome. The spine, same, as original boxing for any kind of action figure. So you're just going to have a regular cardboard box. And you have that new design. I don't know how I feel about that new head. The new logo on the side there. Not a huge fan of it. But like I said, I don't pick apart the boxes because what's the point? I mean, if you're going to display them in the box, you're going to have them turned around so you can see the figure. Obviously, the description there, the little breakdown. Now, they did have these on the Cult Classics as well. They're a little bit different, I guess, is that these are kind of a little bit more on point, and there's not the big reveal of the movie character. And then here on the bottom, obviously, like I said before, there's 3 different figures in the set. You got Pops, then you have a younger version of Pops, and then you have the T-1000. So I think those were 3 awesome ones. I think we could have saw John Connor. It would have been awesome as well. But for the 3 we got, I think we did pretty well. Wish there was more, but like I said, you give some more Arnold, and then the T-1000 is great to display with the old T-1000, the Robert Patrick version. So I just think it's kind of cool to mix the 2 together. Because isn't that what it's really all about? Is seeing the old Terminator and the new Terminator and looking on your shelf and being able to see the evolution of one of your all-time favorite films. That's what it's like for me. And you really get that in the head sculpt. You see the evolution, especially when compared to the older ones. I mean, first look at it. I didn't think it was possible to go into detail and give the wrinkles and give the aging the way that NECA actually did. I love the way that they did the paint around the skin so you can kind of see like the blood on it. The hair, I always go into the attention to detail they do on the hair because they craft each individual one. They give so much care to it. And then they give it the black roots with the gray paint over top of it. Obviously, you have your little line right here in the middle. That's on every single head, but like I always say, when it's on the shelf, you don't notice it whatsoever. But here, the crow's feet, I mean, come on, they gave the guy crow's feet. They went in, they put the little marks on his eyes, the wrinkles on his forehead. I've gone through and I've looked at some screenshots from the movie, and they pretty much nailed it all the way across. Now, yeah, The cuts on the chin maybe vary a little bit. Maybe not every single cut's the right, but when it comes to the look of Arnold, when it comes to the look on his head, around his lips, the way his facial lines are, his laugh lines, his smiles, they really nailed it on this one. Another thing I like is the eye. If you look at the outside eye there, it looks realistic. Remember, this is a 7-inch figure. And sometimes whenever you're zoomed up on it or you get a good look at it or get a good picture of it, sometimes they kind of come off kind of Hot Toys-ish in the right lighting. And I think that's a testament to being able to make a 7-inch figure look that realistic when it's that small. I mean, the sculptors at Neca are knocking it out of the ballpark. I mean, not only do they get the face, they don't skimp on the detail on the actual endoskeleton either. I mean, here, once we get it zoomed back up, they go right on in, so you get depth. You know, maybe they could have done a little bit more with the teeth, but like I said, if you go into the actual face and you go into the scarring and everything around it, that is just an excellent head sculpt on their part. Now, one of the other things with the new ones is this: no neck. That's just a new thing. I don't know if I like it or not. I'm still out on this one. I mean, obviously, it's easier to interchange them. You don't have as much to worry about there. But the thing I liked about the neck is it made it easier to stand it up on the display case. Here's a good comparison. This one has a neck, the other one doesn't. But look at how they aged him. You can just see how well they're doing here. Like, obviously, this is on the right there, you have an older version. I think that's from my still mill. And then the other one is the Pops. But here you see one has a neck, one doesn't. The hole in the neck is way bigger than the other one. Interchanging's about the same. There's nothing that's really crazy about it except for the fact that, like I said, with the neck, you can put it down and it'll actually stay. Now here's the arm nubbin. I don't really use this, the severed arm. I wanted to show it to you just because obviously I want you to know what you're getting when you get the figure. It has this little ball joint on the back of it here, so it can move pretty much whatever way you need it to move. Not that it would really matter, I don't think, too much, because like I said, it's just a nub of an arm. But it is, one, movie accurate, which is awesome and very, very important. And two, it's just, good detail. It's a cool little accessory to add on. I don't like taking his arm off. I'm worried I'm going to break it. Two, I like my Arnold with both his arms. I can get more action shots out of him. However, for a couple photos, I'm going to eventually have to move the joints around. So I've read online via Twitter, use hot water when you're interchanging them. That way it doesn't break. Now, he only comes with one gun, and I believe it's the Benelli M4 Super 90 shotgun. I looked through the set list of all the guns that he used in the film. This isn't 100% accurate to that weapon in particular, but it's the closest one that I can find. So I believe this is the Benelli shotgun. One of the coolest things about it, well, with all the guns they make with them, is the soft straps. It's easy to throw over the shoulder. It's easy to move around with the figure. And because it's loose and because it's soft, you don't really have to worry about the breakage. Usually if it's a hard plastic, it's going to snap. The rubber is a great addition to all these guns because it makes them more realistic. And they even put a little hole right there. See that right there in the end? Which is pretty awesome. I don't know if that was meant, but it's cool. So let's talk about articulation. We'll start with the head because obviously you want a full range of motion, and you obviously get that. He can look side to side, he can look up, he can look down. The attention to detail on the face means no matter what the lighting is, you're going to catch it at just the right point. You're going to get good photos out of it, and he's just going to look cool in general. If you actually go into the articulation of the arm, you can see he moves up. It's a little stiff, but it's gonna roll around. You're gonna really be able to get a full range of motion. Like I said, I'll breathe on mine, or maybe I'll hit him with a hair dryer, and that kind of loosens the joints up a little bit more, which makes it safer. And if you get them in the winter, be careful because they're gonna snap. Here you can see, obviously, the wrist moves around. You saw the elbow joint earlier. You can bend it back and forth, which is typical of a Neca figure. You can also swing that joint. So even though it's a hinge joint, you can still swing it on a ball as well. Same thing with the other arm. It moves up here in the shoulder. You can move it back and forth. You can obviously see right there where it goes backwards and forwards. Once again, ball joint and hinge joint kind of mixed together here on the elbow, giving you full articulation. The only time that can be a problem is whenever it tends to hyperextend the other way, which I haven't really had to deal with any of the new figures. I dealt with that in some of the earlier T2 figures I got a couple years ago, but haven't had to deal with that in the newer ones. You can see there, he obviously has the veins and stuff on the back of his hands. They go into a lot of detail in his clothing as well, which I thought was awesome. So you can see here it's a really soft kind of coat, and then right here the shirt actually bends with the waist, which kind of adds the realism. And then the legs, you obviously have the full range of motion there, and all the Ultimate figures where you can move them back and forth, you can get the running. No snappage. I haven't had any snappage on my Terminator figures, and I haven't had a lot of looseness. You can see here his knees are nice and stiff. Some of the Jason figures that came out, the Jason Lives ones, they were a little bit loose. The knees kind of rolled around, so none of my Terminators have done that. All the Terminator figures are sturdy, just like the endoskeleton. So I guess that kind of goes hand in hand. That one, a little bit looser, but not that bad. And then down here with the shoes, typical shoes, I mean, it's just like a regular black dress shoe. It kind of moves around a little bit, not a lot. You don't really need it to. Over time, you don't really want it to move around too much because then they tend to bend forward or backwards, which is never a good thing. And then you have the stamp. Right there, you have the image on the bottom, but I always look for the Neca, the timestamp, what year it was made in. It's also just for authentication. There's some people do knockoffs out there, and obviously any of these new ones out there, they're not going to be a knockoff. But still, the shoes look worn. You got the creases on them right there. So, I mean, just like all their figures, just a really good attention to detail, realism, so that right there in the pants, you can even see it looks like they're like laying down. It looks like fabric, even though it is a hard plastic or a hard rubber. And you can even see the stitching. His pants have like triple stitching. Look at that. Those are well-made pants, even though they're not pants at all. Little pockets on the back. I just think it's awesome that they go into the movies. They look at what the character is wearing. They look at the actual coats. They look at the actual pants. They look at the fabric patterns. And then they recreate them. And you don't see a lot of that in action figures, in toys, to where they're trying to have the movie realism that comes across, and it's perfect. And I think the fact that they not only are consistently doing that, but the fact that NECA has made it just second thought, just happens with our figures. They all look awesome. They're all realistic, and you should expect that from us. I think that's huge for a company to be like that. And look at his chest. You got the little blow piece right here where it looks like he got shot. Up here underneath, yeah, right up there. You can see there's a little bit more here. So they kind of added a little bit of depth there so that you got two kind of injured patterns on his chest, which kind of plays in when you switch his arm off. You can't really do a T-800 without a battle damaged chest. I think every single one of them have the side of the face and the damaged chest. What I kind of want to show you now is what I'm working on for the next couple weeks, which is comparison of the Arnolds. Here's the two Genysis figures. What I love about them is they're the same film, and one looks significantly older, and it's not just the graying of the hair. They're getting really good at these 7-inch figures. If you look at all of them, which I have pretty much I think every single one that NECA's done, and mind you, these are traditionals. These aren't the ultimate formats that they're coming out with. These are the old school ones. But one of the things I like about them is you can look at Arnold throughout the history of the films and then look at what they've done with each figure as they've gotten through with them. Like, that's my favorite thing about NECA. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a comparison video. I'll add the link in here later on for it. But I really want to just take a look at all of the Arnolds throughout the time. I mean, from the battle damage one, which is the final battle one up front, is one of my absolute favorite ones. Clearly the Tech Noir, which are, the Tech Noirs are fantastic. And I've already done reviews on those guys. So I think it's really good to kind of just be able to, now that we have all these goodies, all these treats, sit back, look at what we've been offered, and kind of take a stroll down memory lane. So that's what I'm going to do in the next couple weeks. That being said, I also am going to get through the rest of the Genysis figures, and I just picked up Bat Gremlin. So those are all going to be coming up soon. But that's Pop's awesome figure. I'm really, really happy with him. The new T-1000's pretty good too, but it's Arnold. You can't beat an old Arnold. You're not going to get too many more of them. They're not going to go making them for other movies. So thanks for tuning in. Thanks for stopping by. And until next time, have a good one.
In an insane world, it was the saner's choice.